Good afternoon, Nerd Fam, and welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia. We're here midway through day 2 of our 3 days of live coverage of KubeCon on theCUBE. My name's Savannah Peterson. Very excited to be continuing our special exclusive series with the Google Cloud team, celebrating the 10-year anniversary of GKE. Super exciting. Here to help me celebrate all of that awesomeness are some return victims. Brandon, thank you so much for being back on the show.
Thank you so much, it's great to be back.
It is so good. Mofi, you're a new face, but
first time, yeah.
First time caller, long time listener. Very excited to have you on the show. Yeah. It's a little bit of both with us.
A little bit of both.
And Rob, sitting in the analyst seat today. You don't even have an IFBN next to me.
I know, I'm going, without, and excited to be here and helping break things down.
Yeah, I'm glad you could share your insights with us today. It's interesting because no one's going to believe me when I say this, but we really haven't talked about Agentic that much here.
It is surprising,
right?
know.
Okay, so
well, I don't know if you've walked around the conference today and heard a thing or two about agents.
Just a little bit, but I'll be honest, the hype has been a little bit, it's AI focused for sure, but I haven't felt, and I say this with so much love, I haven't felt the over-index on Agentic that we've been hearing at a lot of the other shows that we've been at, and I think it's because this community is all about talking about what's real, and not the vaporware, smoke and mirrors kind of style of some of the other events that we all attend. Again, said lovingly. But y'all have been doing a lot of work in the Agentic space. I know that Brandon, you and the team have really been working hard on laying the foundation for our Agentic future. So get us all up to speed a little bit on where you're off at. I know you made some announcements recently.
Yeah, it's been a very exciting week. Maybe we'll just start with the basic definition. What is an agent? Everyone sort of talks about an agent.
Let's do that actually, because everyone seems to pretend like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think it's worth sort of grounding ourselves in basic definitions here, because I think this is a term that has been sort of stretched and pulled in different directions. And generally speaking, we're talking about providing tool-like capabilities, just like, I'm not an anthropologist, but the difference between, humans and the rest of the animal species out there is the ability to use tools, and agents, I think in a big way, it's providing the same sort of distinction. The ability to use tools, and not all tools are the same, right? And we've sort of seen that in the booth here, in the conference here. There's a lot of sort of tools to provide operations and allowing agents to operate Kubernetes, and then there's actually running the agents on top of Kubernetes and then providing those agents with the tools. So there's lots to sort of unpack, but I think a lot of this sort of stems from the ability to use tools.
Yeah, so when we're talking about agents, we're talking about large language models that have access to function call and tools. So large language models, for the most part, once it's trained, it's a static, just numbers, it's a collection of numbers, right? And most of the large language models get trained up to cutoff. You see the word cutoff, cutoff of August 2024, December 2025, whatever date that is. The moment you have tools, now the model can have ideas of what's current. Google search is a very classic tool. Go search the internet, find things. The agents and the things we're talking about for Kubernetes, the other thing you mentioned, we're not seeing as much hype around agents here, and I think we're doing the work to make agents truly real. Where next KubeCon potentially you're going to see the hype around it, because you can't just give a large language model access to your computer to do things, because that's risky, right?
You just made me feel a little queasy just thinking about that.
Yeah, so again, the idea of computer use, idea of code execution is very powerful, but at the same time is extremely risky. So the reason I feel like in the community here in KubeCon, where people want things to be real, you don't want that much power onto something that is still non-deterministic, right? So that's where I think a lot of the work Brandon and team is working on is going to become where the isolated environment, I think Brandon's going to talk about very deeply in the next few minutes. But I feel like what you mentioned that, it's still not real, but it is going to be, and that's what we're looking at. That's where we're kind of peeking into the future a little bit.
Yeah, I look at it just looking at everybody on the floor here, and you start to look at all of the different pieces going from chatbots to agents to agentic workflows. To your point, an agent focused on a task, needing certain tools. So all the rage back in London was really around MCP. MCP this, MCP that, you get an MCP server, you get an MCP server. My favorite Oprah-ism for MCP, right? Everybody was getting one. And then A to A was put into the public, and you guys put it into CNCF, and that helps agent-to-agent communication. I think when we start to break it down and you talk to people, and I think you squishy is a good way, or being stretched out.
Yeah. It's like a silly putty area.
It is.
A little bit.
So people think to that point, think of agents in different terms, and I think there's a lot of people who are on their different parts of their journey. I think it's very early, and I think this is why the infrastructure portion getting solved is super interesting and important because it's complex. And I think complexity kills, it doesn't enable, and that's why it needs to get simpler.
I think that's a really good point. We were joking on the last segment about the return of the infrastructure celebrity. Yeah. So we had Tim on, we had Kelsey on. It's like the nerds are really having this apex moment, and it is that core foundation. Brandon, I'm curious, when you're figuring out what to build with the team next to ensure that this foundation is as strong as it can be for those leveraging GK and Kubernetes to build whatever their future might be.
Yeah.
Why is Kubernetes so great for this next technology iteration? And then how do you prioritize what to build next to empower that? Because I can imagine there's a lot of demand on you from the community, stakeholders, partners, internally. Would love to hear what you also have to say.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think in a lot of ways, just Kubernetes provides a great foundation for AI in general. We've seen this adoption. I mean, this is, again, not just hype. This is some of the biggest customers that are deploying some of the biggest models for training, for inference, all using Kubernetes because it's so flexible and it's so extensible. And we've started to see the same exact thing for agents. So you take an agent workload that's doing some of that orchestration, that's calling those different tools via MCP. Kubernetes is really well suited for that.
Yeah.
But what we did is we wanted to look at, at the primitive level, building that really solid foundation. We wanted to figure out, well, where are the gaps? Where are the things that Kubernetes isn't as well positioned as it could be, and how can we plug in some of those gaps foundationally and allow the community to sort of build on top of it? And that's what Mofi was talking about earlier with things like code execution, computer use. You have a machine, you want an agent to take action on your behalf, not with a sort of safe read-only API, but with a terminal or with code, like an actual code execution environment. There's incredible power, but there's lots of risk. So, this is an area that we've been investing in, quite a bit in the open source, investments that we've done in things like gVisor to provide that isolation, but really taking it one step further to make it accessible and easy and fast. That's really where we've been focusing our time, and that's really what we've actually been launching this week with tools like Agent Sandbox directly in Kubernetes. Now you can do a lot of those things directly within those Kubernetes primitives and sort of plug in some of those holes that we've seen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Use that silly putty to plug in some of those holes.
Exactly, there you go.
Mofi, tell us a little bit about Agent Sandbox and what this means for the community.
Yeah, so the whole concept of Agent Sandbox is you want, it's in the name Agent and Sandbox. I want a sandbox environment for my agent to do things. So the two key areas that we initially started with is code execution and computer use. Code execution could be anything like I want to run an experiment, my data science wants to run an experiment, and that needs to run some Python code or any code that needs to execute in an environment, and I don't want that code to run on my local machine. And that actually goes in two directions. One is the security aspect of it. I don't want to run random code that a large language model generated in my code environment. The other one is actually to have kind of sane defaults. Your company, let's say you have certain libraries you want to use, right? And you can create this sandbox that has those libraries pre-installed, and if you try to run the code that doesn't follow that guideline, it's going to just fail. And it's much easier and much cheaper to fail in a container.
I was just going to say, then it doesn't mess up the entire rest of the system, and you can keep messing around and
absolutely
kind of like etch-a-sketch it and just start over again.
That's the code execution part of it. The other one is the computer use, where let's say you want the agent to take some decision based on internet data. That's like go to this browser, go to our company doc, go to our company website, try it as a user would to give me some insight. Again, trying on your local computer, it would still work, but then you're letting a random LLM access to your browser, which is, again, if you're scared before you're scared again, so that continues.
Yeah.
You're really keeping me on my toes over here, Mofi.
Hey, day two, gonna wake you up again. So that kind of stuff. Now we can run things in a sandbox environment. We can spin up like with Playwright, headless Chrome browser that can behave like a user. The demo we were actually running yesterday, we asked go to a e-commerce website, look for an item, and it was like you can see the LLM's logs that says I am clicking this button, I'm trying to sort this by low to high because you asked to find the cheapest item, and the first item I found was not actually type of item item, it was like a case for the item. So it was doing all this behavior that a user would, and this is actually useful for both type of things where you want the agent to do things, but also you want to test your own applications. Let the agent become this automated tester to go through and find all these things, and both of those things with Agent Sandbox now, you can create in a sandbox secure environment where you as the platform admin can now define these environments, set up these templates for your engineers to just have access to.
And it lets more people play and get creative, and because that's where we're going to find the cool solutions of the future. It's not going to be the same.
It's embracing the non-determinism of AI and agents. You can say, listen, I'm going to give you this sandbox. I'm going to give you enough safe guardrail around that, but then you can go and try to solve that problem. Use a browser, go and browse around, like find the information that you need, and then come back to it. And I can be very confident in that security perimeter.
I was just going to bring up the security of that too, and that way we know we're not going to expose a bunch of private data because some agent went rogue and felt like turning the lights on in a part of the business it didn't need to, or whatever that might be.
Exactly, and the other dimension, or there are a couple other dimensions, just to add to what Mofi was saying earlier, the other requirement we see from customers is you need speed. And this should be pretty obvious. You're deploying one agent.
I haven't heard that at all.
Yeah, you're deploying one agent. Okay, fine, you can have a sandbox that starts up a little slow, but you're deploying 1,000 agents, 10,000 agents. Each one of those needs to make its own sandbox calls. Each one of those needs to be completely isolated. We need to think about what is the latency? How do we bring that down to as low as possible? How do we ensure that we can scale these up as fast as possible, throw them away when we no longer need them? So those are also the primitives that we're working on building, providing that sort of low latency experience, and also just providing a better API. Providing an API that makes it really easy for an AI engineer who is not a Kubernetes expert, so they can go and they can plug this in and they can use it on day one, super easy.
And on the Agent Sandbox, like the entire SDK is a Python SDK, so if you are building agents today with ADK, Crew AI, LangChain, whatever framework you can think of, you can just import that library, call to it, as long as your Kubernetes configs are set, it's just going to be able to use the sandbox spin-up environment for your agent that is written in Python to talk to now have an environment.
No, this is really smart. And this low latency, this gives you a 90% performance improvement over
we ran the benchmarks at the end of last week,
that's incredibly
and we were all
significant.
looking at each other like, okay, can we just check that again, make sure that's good? Because this is basically taking something that's multiple seconds to execute, which is okay, but if you scale that out, that's a problem. And now we're bringing that all the way down to sub-second, even hundreds of milliseconds to execute. And if I'm doing a code execution agent, multiple executions, lots of agents scaling out, that latency really adds up. So so we're really excited about the performance that we're seeing out of the box, which is awesome.
And the pod snapshot, restoring sandbox memory.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit, so I was a Gmail beta tester.
Okay.
25 years ago.
Wow.
You and I have that in common, by the way.
I love this for us. It's probably the first technology product that I was really ever testing. So I've been a Google fan for a really long time. Let's put it that way. And I remember the key differentiator is we shifted to the cloud and documents saving automatically and email saving automatically. And it sounds silly now because we wouldn't lose anything like we used to, but we all remember when we were working on something and a computer crashed or hardware failed and everything fell apart. Being able to do this stuff in seconds, being able to play around and just snap right back, this actually makes a really big difference because setting up these environments is one of the heavier lifts as people start on their AI journey.
Yeah. And this is just a clear set of requirements our customers have come to us and said, if only I could just snapshot that. If only I could just save the state of that and restore it back, it would be amazing, right?
It's the version history, but in the sandbox style.
Let's just do that, right? We have all the pieces. It works perfectly within sort of this agentic kind of experience where we want to say, all right, this is the exact point in which I always want to start, or I want to save this exact point and always restore
and be able to come back to that if I want to.
But it also gets to the point of what everybody was over indexes on that MIT report, the 5% and stuff like that.
I hate that.
I know, but to me, it's not that 5%. It's like if there's 5% of a million, and there should have only been the 5% to begin with, because you can snapshot and roll back and tweak and move on and continue to iterate through those use cases that make sense. You get more velocity and you see more success. And I think that's why it's important to have these types of features like sandboxes and snapshotting to be able to go back to, because when you start to look at how you enable it and get the toil, because right now, when I was at the Infrastructure as Code conference on Monday night and talking to a lot of platform engineers, and they're looking at the toil for supporting these AI environments.
Yeah.
And they're, and not all of them are experts. Some of them came from the dev side and are not Kubernetes experts. So they're looking at it going, hey, how do I now get to AI faster, and more repeatably? And I think that's what I love about this solution, is it really
No, this makes a lot
helps
of sense. And it feels a little bit, I don't want to say it was a missing link, but it feels like the environment that will benefit a lot of folks as they're ramping up.
The pod snapshotting part of it, right? So of course this was built with the AI customers in mind first, but this feature benefits everybody.
Yeah.
If your workload can start faster, like if you ask a random person, like, do you want to wait 3 seconds or 10 milliseconds? Right? Like who would say like, no, let
Everyone
me actually,
wants faster,
you know what,
right?
I want 3 seconds.
Yeah.
The other thing also is about like some of the thing about the MIT report failure. Do you want to live in a world where basically we try nothing new so that nothing fails, or we fail on something and get something really exciting things coming?
I would like that second world, personally.
Yes.
That sounds far more interesting. I have 2 final questions for you. Rob, I'm going to open up with this one on you. What do you hope agents do for you in your personal life?
Oh, I hope they schedule my my dry cleaning and have
so specific. I love this.
Have an Uber and then tie into Uber that can go pick it up, Uber delivery or
Waymo,
Lyft or Waymo or whoever, and bring it to my house, so I don't have to go do that like in the few hours I'm home a week.
I was going to say, you're speaking my language, because
Yes.
I have dry cleaning to do before we flip turn
I know.
again to next week. Okay, I love that. Mofi, what about you?
I mean, so on Waymo topic, this is the first time I actually took a Waymo. New York doesn't have a Waymo yet, so this is exciting. I think it's just like taking away toil, right? I think a lot of the things one of our engineers, Justin, was talking about, we want our engineers to actually just do the creative part of things and let computers, as much as possible, do the toilsome part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is fear amongst people like, oh, is AI replacing X, Y, and Z? But I think it's more about, is AI freeing us from doing toilsome work to actually be doing creative work?
Yeah, like, is the question, is AI replacing boredom?
Yeah. So
almost to a bit.
And so I think the agentic future basically does a lot of the thing that is boilerplate and toilsome, and lets me just focus on creative work and gives me more free time to play board games. Honestly.
Heck yeah! What's your favorite board game?
Right now, I would say actually play mostly D&D mostly these days.
Oh, that's awesome. I just watched an amazing documentary on board games and the competitive. They have the World Series of board games.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole documentary on it. You're going to have to check it out.
Okay,
total
go.
sidebar. Brandon, what about you? What do you hope the agents do for you?
As much as I imagine as a manager you love doing, reports for all of your direct reports, like being a people manager is hard, but now as an individual contributor, all of us individual contributors, we can be a manager of agents. We can have all of these agents that are doing all of our work.
Yeah.
And so I think of that, I'm like, oh, okay, I can actually have a set of agents that can go and do this prototyping for me. Like, hey, I've got a couple of ideas. Why don't you 3 go and try that? Right, try them out and see what happens, or whether it's taking a product spec and coming up with cool product ideas, building cool prototypes and code, coming back. If I can have a whole team of agents that are doing that for me, well, I can focus on having conversations like this with you fine people. Like that is
well played, Brandon.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? I can have a whole team of folks that are doing that work, agents doing that work on my behalf. So that's what I hope for. So hopefully a year from now, when we come back here, we can talk about all the productive work that our agents are doing while we're chatting.
How did you know? That's always my closing question. It's like you've been on the show before,
No.
Brandon. Mofi, what do you hope to be able to say this time next year?
All the features that we are in beta has gone to
So
stable.
practical, Mofi.
And
The earnest answer there. That was
more whimsy answer would be, I think next year I want to see that more and more people in the show floors are thinking about how Kubernetes API fits their workload, right? Every year I come to KubeCon, it's basically for me looking into the future a little bit, where the investment is going and how people are thinking about Kubernetes being. Maybe like 2 years ago it was all about like platform engineering, backstage and all that stuff.
It totally
right?
was.
Right?
You're absolutely right.
This year you're seeing a lot more agents, observability of AI workload. So that's kind of a little bit looking in the future. And hopefully by next year, a lot of that vision that people are thinking about, all of that materializes. And as you said in the beginning of this thing, at KubeCon, we're all talking about the reals. So next year agents are real, and we're talking about what's next for agents.
And just add one more thing to that too, given we were talking about all the agent vendors that are here, like building really cool stuff on Kubernetes, I can't wait to come back here a year from now and see all the folks that have built on top of Agent Sandbox. We really do want to make it that much of a primitive right? So if you're
Yeah.
building these cool, integrations with agents, like build it on the primitives that we have. So we're really excited for that, and we're already working with the community to make some of that possible. So
it'll
we're
be
excited.
awesome to tell those stories on here too, and talk
For
about what
sure.
that process was like and
Can't
how
wait.
they had greater confidence. Oh, it's going to be so fun. I'm going to ask you, Rob, because I haven't asked you. What do you want to be able to say this time next year?
I'm here for the customer stories, so I'm really excited. Very similarly, I want to hear how they've simplified the toil out of what they're doing, and we're not talking about how we're knitting together the agentic systems, how it's really become more templatized, it's become more operator-based in Kubernetes, and that we're not talking about things like LLMD and how all of the distributed, functions on top of different GPUs and all of this other stuff is working. We're getting to, hey, this was the result, and by the way, start to finish, it was this quick and saved me this amount of toil. That's what I'm hoping for next year.
Awesome, I love it. Well, I can't wait to talk about all of that with the three of you. Thank you so much for a wonderful segment.
Thanks for having us.
You're now going to be a return alum all the time. Mofi, you did well, so watch out. We're going to bring you back. Brennan knows the deal.
We'll send a Waymo for you.
Nice.
Yeah,
There we go.
Yeah.
And it'll pick up our dry cleaning.
Our dry cleaning.
On the way. I love this for
Hopefully
all
it does
of
it before
us.
it picks me up, so that I don't have to wait for the...
Yeah.
Very true.
No, exactly. It's like the Jetsons. I've been dreaming of that.
But it has to look at all our schedules and understand,
find
and
the right
then
time.
do all of that, and
it'll do
then
that
other agent will look
in
at the
like
other things. And,
that amount of time.
I love
It's
it.
all within reach.
Too. I know, it's all within reach, folks. Anything is possible. I hope you're feeling as inspired as we are in Atlanta, Georgia, day 2 of KubeCon, bringing you a special exclusive series celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Google Kubernetes Engine. My name is Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.